And when we think of a continuously learning machine learning model, there's really two parts to that. One is the ability to capture and feed new data into your machine learning pipeline. And the second is that pipeline taking it and actually retraining its model based off that new data so that our predictions are most up to date. And so when it comes to Cortex, we do both. And so the whole idea is it's not just a one-time model that's trained based on data that you had in the past, and then you're stuck using that model to predict more usage patterns in the future. Really what we do with our customers is integrate to ensure that we're continuously getting new data. Some customers stream data to us just like they do their analytics providers. Others do it, say, on a daily basis where they dump data over to Cortex. But the key idea there being is that all of these new usage patterns are continuously being streamed over into Cortex. So that's one aspect, is ensuring that you're just capturing the new data. And then the second aspect is to use that data to retrain and update your predictions for each user. And this is really where the Cortex automation truly comes into play. Because oftentimes when you look at machine learning models built in-house, they're often not built with this idea of continuous learning as a core feature. More often than not, they're built with sort of a historic data set to train a model. And then, like I said before, that model is then used throughout the future. And the further away you get from the training of that model, the less accurate that prediction is going to be, especially, as you mentioned, if we're seeing drastic changes in user behavior. And so Cortex Automation does both of these for you. We'll continuously ingest new data from you and use that new data to continuously retrain and update the predictions for each one of your users. That way, if week over week we're starting to see patterns change, our models will update automatically based on that change of behavior. And anytime you use that prediction, you can rest assured that it'll have the most up-to-date prediction for that user based on any of these behavior patterns. You can actually go into creating the prediction. And so within Cortex, that's going to be a new pipeline specifically predicting a future event. Because what we're doing is we're taking all of these usage patterns and saying for each one of our users, what's the likelihood that they'll take a specific action in the future? Here, it's going to be a subscription. So the first thing that we have to do is say what we're actually trying to predict. And as we were just looking at the data that's coming into Cortex, that exact same data is going to be what's shown here for your predictions. And so as you start to track different behaviors for these users, that will be the events and behaviors that you can use for predictions. So here specifically what we want to know is which of these users are going to take the action, which is subscribe. For this data set, we only have one subscription tier, but if we did have additional subscription tiers, we would be able to classify that here as well. Maybe those who are going to subscribe to a gold tier, for example. And then the question is, in what time frame do we want this action to occur? Maybe we run a weekly email campaign in which we really want to know, are these users going to take this action within the next week? Or maybe this is a monthly newsletter in which it's more important to us to know this on a monthly cadence. To the platform, you just give that information and we'll be able to configure the prediction specific to what you need. Here, we'll just stick with a month. Who is most likely to subscribe over the next one? And here is where we get into the user attributes. So the prediction is going to be based off an event. We're trying to predict that the user is going to take an event in the future. Here we say, for whom are we trying to make this prediction? Because right now we're going to say for any user that we're currently tracking, what's their likelihood of subscribe. But we would assume that there's a large portion of our users who are already subscribers for whom this prediction doesn't make any sense. And so rather what we want to do is specify that this prediction should only be made for those users who are non-subscribers. And so you can see here we have different segments of these users. We have those who are non-subscribers, those who are currently subscribed, those who have churned. So you can send over any attribute that you want into this platform. And maybe for this prediction, we actually want to know, are churned users going to resubscribe? So this would essentially say anybody who is not currently subscribed, what's the probability you will within the next 30 days? Or rather, maybe this is a new user acquisition campaign, and really we're just focused on acquiring net new users to the platform, in which case non-subscribers would be the way to go. So if we go into pipeline discoveries, what we're going to look here is all of the features that we created off the data that's been sent into Cortex. So here for this pipeline, we have 65 of those features. And what we're going to try to do is show you automatically what is the most important features that lead to this prediction. Or said another way, what types of behavior for each of these users lead to a very accurate prediction. And what we're going to look here is all of the features that Vidora created specifically for this prediction pipeline. And it's split up into two groups, active days and event types. And you can see all of the different features that we created for day activity, as well as all of the events that we created and all of the features that we created off those events. For example, one event is that a user viewed an item, but as you can see, we're going to convert that into many different features that are available for this pipeline. But if we even take it at a very high level, what this is telling us is that it's actually not the type of behaviors that our users are taking that leads to a very accurate prediction for this particular pipeline. Rather, for this particular pipeline, what we're seeing is that it's the user's activity in terms of how many days they've been active that is leading to the highest predictions, which kind of makes sense here. For these anonymous users before they become subscribers, simply seeing repeated and continuous activity over time is probably more important than the individual actions that they're taking within your service. So that's exactly what we're seeing here. As you can see, the importance, which means what is the importance of this particular data set to the overall prediction? Active days is much more important than the types of events that they're taking. So it's very interesting to see for this particular pipeline. And now that isn't to say that this will be the right data for your pipeline. Obviously, your data set is going to impact what we see here. This is just for this data set that we're running.